Doesn't look quite the same as it did when I dropped it off last
No, I hope not, because there's a pile of work.
Oh, a pile of work.
Good morning, everybody. So we got Jed in the shop with me today. And today, we're gonna work on Paul's bike. So we're gonna get that thing set up on the hoist, get the motor out of it, and see if we can chop up his aluminum frame. So let's get going. Yeah, they're heavy old buggers.
Want to strap it?
Sure. For safety, because we're safe people. Safety glasses. Here we go. This bike right here, when it falls, it'll just tip everything over.
Take the lift with it.
That's right. All right, so on this iron framer, what we're gonna use on this bike is we're gonna use the motor, the carburetor, the exhaust, all electronics, throttle tube, clutch cable, throttle cable, and clutch perch. Other than that, everything else, we'll put this thing back together and it will be like it never even happened.
Boat anchor.
A boat anchor? Jed said it's gonna be a boat anchor. You know what's crazy about this? It is kind of weird because the last time I worked on this bike, I was helping him put it together.
So it's backwards.
It is backwards, so now we're taking it apart to put it together, so that's what's crazy. Not bad shape, a little deer tape, but it's decent.
Don't try and church it up. You know it's dirt.
Don't church it up, dirt. Got gold antifreeze in it?
Looks like syrup.
What kind of syrup? Like pancake syrup?
Maple.
Like Mrs. Buttersworth?
Can't say that.
You can say it, you just can't have the bottle. But you can say it.
Didn't they change the name too? I don't know, maybe.
There wasn't much coolant in that thing.
No, unless there's a blockage in there.
Huh. Interesting.
On that one video, everybody's complaining about it having low compression.
Yeah.
Wonder if she does. Been hot?
By the looks of that, it's probably not great. That, it should have more coolant than that in it.
It should. Maybe she's on that James Craig.
All right, so new discovery here. We were draining the coolant on Paul's bike. See?
Just make sure.
Main hole's right there. It's not plugged up. Nope. Cap's loose. Cap's actually not even on the radiator. It's right there. And that's all the coolant we got out of it. So I'm not sure if this thing got hot and boiled out a couple times and they just forgot to fill it or what, but I think we're gonna set this thing down before we pull the motor and do a compression check on it, just to see if it's got good compression, because I'm thinking this thing may have got hot at some point. But I'm thinking we're gonna want to pull that head. Definitely take a look down inside the jug, you know. Buck 25, it's not horrid. All right, so we did a compression test on it. And we're sitting at 125 pounds on a compression, and cold, dry. So it's not terrible, but I think I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna pull the head, off of this thing when we get the motor out, because when we pulled the plug, look what we discovered. The plug, I don't know if you guys can see it or not. Let me get in the light here. The plug actually has a little bit what looks like rust almost. So if the cylinders had water in it, that's not great. So possible cause where it was low on coolant, head gasket could be bad.
Head gasket.
Eating coolant. Could have been just hot a couple times and boiled it out. I don't know. Either way, we're gonna have to tear into this motor. Didn't think we were going to, but I think we're gonna need to. There you go. She's all you. There she is. Motor's out of the old chassis. We're gonna hurry and bolt this thing back together so we don't have a bunch of parts just kicking around. Take off a few little things that we need from it, and we'll pull that bike over here after we degrease this motor a little bit, because she's kind of nasty. But actually, before we do that, we're gonna pull the head on it, see what it looks like down inside the cylinder, because I'm pretty sure we're gonna change the head out anyhow. That zip tie's a good zip tie. Oh, well, that works. We went down and pressure washed the old girl off. She was khaki. Zip tied them so it didn't get no more moisture in it, because that was the trouble. I'm gonna go ahead, zip the oak. That's the wrong size. Suck it. I need a flail.
Wonder who did that.
Huh?
I said, I wonder who did that.
I don't know.
Yeah, it was me.
Was it you? That's all right.
My bad.
That one's tighter than it needed to be.
What's that torque spec on there?
14 Ugga-Duggas. Head looks good, but it's definitely got some moisture in its side of her. Roll the cylinder down. Oh yeah. So hand me that flashlight right there. We'll show these people what we're dealing with. See all those rust spots inside of that jug right there? Those are not supposed to be like that. This has had water in the cylinder at some point. Might explain where our coolant was going from, or coming from. Pull this gasket off and see if we can see what exactly was, where it was coming from.
Point of failure?
Yep. But it was seeping through right there. See how rough that is?
That's where we got a little bit of a hoo-ha right here too.
Yep. Put the head back on it. We'll mock up the frame. Once the frame's mocked up, we'll send this jug off to Dave at Lindsay Machine and have him oversize the bore on it one more time. We'll pull the studs out, have him deck the top of the cylinder, and decide what we're going to do with the head. We'll either send this one up and have it shaved, or we'll go an alternative route. Might go a fat head racing route or something like that. What would you guys do? Go down in the comments and ask me what you guys would do as far as a head goes. Would you go stock, have them put a decompression release in it and a stock head, or should we go aftermarket? I'm curious to see what you guys would do. I think we've decided that we're just going to put that motor back together and use it for mock-up and then send the jug off. So in the meantime, Jed's gone ahead and put the donor chassis up on the frame, and we're going to strip this thing down, a few things we are not going to use on it, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to chop up the frame. So we're going to lift this thing up. I'll mark with a marker where we're going to chop it and how we're going to chop it, and we'll get going on that. Okay, so we have marked out what we're going to use and where, well, I guess we've marked out where we're going to cut everything. So we are going to utilize the factory Y and actually take and raise this up in the chassis to allow room for the exhaust to come out of here, but up higher. And then we're gonna take and cut off the factory lower mounts and reuse those, because I really like the way they actually hug the frame instead of just welding to the top side of it. And then these lowers right here are actually gonna go in the trash. And what I've got is new factory style bent aluminum lowers to replace those. So basically how that's going to work is we're going to cut the old ones out, weld those ones in, raise the Y up, bam, there you go, done deal. Right? Ish?
Exactly.
Ish. That easy, so they say.
Sounds simple.
Okay, so let me show you kind of what I got going on here. So I went ahead and trimmed the factory lower mounts off of it while I still had the lowers in the frame, the original frame, just because it makes it a little bit easier to, you know, be stable to get to. Trimmed the ears off of this Y. They had to come off either way, but the reason I did that is because before we cut this Y out and these factory lowers, we're gonna go ahead and set the CR500 motor in here, and that's gonna give us a good idea of how far this Y needs to raise up. So that'll give us a better idea on how far we need to trim the factory neck in order to have enough material to weld the Y back onto. The other reason we're gonna actually put the motor in before we actually cut the lowers out is I want to put the new head stay in and actually tack it into place and center the motor this way and this way with the new head stay mount up here, just so we have a better idea of where the motor is gonna sit. But first things first, I've got some cleaning up to do, you know? All right, so let me show you what we got here. We got a whole bunch of parts and goodies. So a lot of these parts are from CP500. We use this same boot on Jed's KX500 conversion. So basically that's a early 2000s, like 97 to 01 CR250 boot. They've just replicated. So those work really good for that. The biggest thing we're using from, so they make an actual kit to convert this frame, and I opted not to use that entire kit because I want to change the lowers to a one piece and reuse that factory Y. But some of the parts I like getting from them because we can't build them for what we buy them for, such as this head stay. That's a nice quality piece. I've used these a lot and they're just awesome. We couldn't build that for what we pay for that. They're really cheap. Coil mount bracket, I think we used one of those on Jed's KX500. And then also the radiator necks work awesome. And then the air box adapter. The other biggest thing on these CR500 conversions is if you run a CR125 swing arm bushing, it will actually give you the correct spacing left to right for the motor, which will line up the sprocket. So we're gonna go ahead and get these swing arm bushings installed in this thing and set the motor in. And then we'll raise the motor up to where that needs to be, and I'll actually tack weld that on the frame with the new head stay brackets, and the motor will be mounted squared in the chassis. All right, so we're getting ready to throw this motor in this chassis of Paul's, and Jed actually noticed something that I had never noticed before. But if you look right here, at some point, they have actually machined out this case for some reason, and I have no idea why that case has been machined like that. So what that does is it lets that bushing go too far in. So we're gonna have to pull this bushing out and machine a spacer to go between here and the case to bring the hard surface out and shim that back up where it's supposed to go. See how far off that is right there? It's a long ways. So just another thing we're gonna have to figure out. Okay, I'll be safe this time. All right. I had an idea.
K-butt.
K-butt.
K-butts. Why are we doing this?
All right, so turns out we live in a very rural town in southern Utah, and it's Sunday afternoon, and they pretty much roll up shop Sundays around here. I needed some round stock to build the bushing for the spacer on Paul's case over here. And Jed happened to have this in his bag from when we built his KX500 headstay stuff. So we're gonna take a round block, put it in the lathe, turn it around. But what I'm thinking, Jed, is if we find somewhat center in here, drill it, roll a bolt inside of it, and then chalk that up in the lathe, and then center it here. That's gonna get us pretty close where it's gonna make it easier to make round instead of trying to chalk up square and round. And then we're gonna make a spacer.
All that for a bushing.
For a bushing. My goodness. I still don't know why they cut that case like that. Never seen that. And I've seen a couple CR500 motors.
Just a few?
A couple.
Just for fun.
Well, I might as well pull up a stool. I'm gonna be here a minute, I think. You know, the thing of it is I know this is not the right way to do this, but we improvise. Never wanted to take a grinder to something so bad in my entire life and just go. Yes.
I think I figured out why they built out that case.
Why? Jed came up with a theory as to why that case is machined like it is. So, ready, set, go.
Here's my theory. So when doing this, you have to change these spacers on the swing arm to get your center point on the sprocket correct.
Right.
So I think this has been an aluminum frame before. Rather than changing these spacers, they just milled this out to accommodate two of these bigger bushings,
which would make
spacers.
Total sense.
Which comes up to where we got this and this. That's almost identical height of what we are lacking. So
That
rather
would make
than
total sense.
I don't know, just a different way of doing it. I wouldn't say it's incorrect or correct.
Yeah.
Just a lot more work.
That's a lot more work. That's a ton more work to machine the case out.
Caused us a bunch of time because we had to make this to get it back to where we would like to do it and using new bushings.
Right. Yeah, that's a interesting theory. I think you're onto something. So that's our fix right there. We're gonna tap that baby in, slap her in the old motor, or slap the motor in the old chassis. Like a glove.
You done well, Kev.
Yes, finally. Finally. All right, well, there it is. She's sitting in the frame. So as you can see here, I'll just kind of show you if you guys didn't get why we're cutting the frame up like we are. So there's the 2-stroke exhaust outlet, and here's the Y. So we're gonna finish cutting this out now that we got an idea about where it needs to go, get it out of the way, raise it up, cut these lowers out after we get the head stay in, and tack it all together. But you can see what we were dealing with here. That was a bushing we had to come up to get our spacing left to right in order to line up with the sprocket to the engine. So that took pretty much all the afternoon we had. So that kind of messed us up a little bit timing wise, but not too big a deal. We got her handled though. Close. Ish.
Next side.
There you go. Yahtzee! That works. I think you got angry. All right, Jed got the Y cut out of the way. Got good clearance there. We've got the head stay bolted in. It's not welded in yet, but I'm gonna fire up the old Lincoln over there. We'll burn in a little bit of aluminum on there just to kind of tack it into place, and then we'll move on to the next step. I'm not a professional aluminum welder, but I've yet to have a motorcycle fall apart yet. Good. Good, he says. That'll work to hold her in place, won't it, Jed? See. Okay. All right, well, we didn't get quite near as much done on this bike project of Paul's that we'd hoped for. The machine case that somebody did kind of messed us up a little bit as far as time-wise. That took way longer than we anticipated, but motor's in it, roughly, head stays in it, tacked into place. So Jed had to get going. I've got to go in, sit down in front of the computer and edit a bunch of videos because, let's face it, if I ain't building videos, you guys aren't watching. So I'm gonna go edit some videos this evening and try to get one of those out in the next day or two, and we'll catch you in a couple days.
3 days later.
All right, so it's after work. I came up here to Jed's shop to use his mill to mill out the Y on Paul's bike, and he's actually in here doing a little polishing on his bike. So let's go see what Jed's up to, and then I'll go show you what I'm up to. He's got a lot of stuff going on in here. What are you doing, Jed?
Sanding the swing arm.
Sanding the old swing arm.
Make her some shininess.
Looking pretty though. I'm gonna go over here and play with your milling machine. Yeah, I'm gonna go make some chips with salsa. Salsa. Cool. I'm pretty happy with that. Let's go see if we can knock this piece out. How's it going over here? Holy heck.
She's shiny.
That's shiny. That's pretty. You should do this for a living.
No thanks.
No thanks. That looks good, Jed. Yeah. You should own a semi.
Unfortunately, I do.
That's what I figured. Me too. What's up there, guys? So when we left off last time, I went up to Jed's and I used his mill and I milled this factory wide piece down for Paul's 500. So on the agenda today, we're gonna get this put back in. We're gonna try to get the factory lower motor mounts in. And then I've got these. These are awesome. These pre-bent aluminum pieces that are factory specs, factory bends, factory style tubing, has the factory Honda. I'll talk about those a little later, and these things are great. So anyways, let's get going. So the other day when I was over on the lathe building machine bushings or whatever for the case, this one right here, on Paul's bike, when I was machining that piece right there, Jed did me a solid and he cut almost all the welds on these lowers. So pretty much all I have to do is find out where he didn't get all the way through. I know on this side he's got one spot, but other than that, I'm gonna cut that right there, pop these lowers off, and that's gonna save me a ton of time. So Jed did me a solid. He's a pretty good boy. Sweet. Frame's already cleaned up, ready to go. So let me show you these new lower rails that I found. So these new lower rails come from Grossum Industries. I'll put the information down below. I found him on Facebook Marketplace. He's on Instagram also. And what's nice about these are actually the factory radius as the stock lower rails, for one. And the second thing of it is, that's really nice, is on the inside, it's actually a round radius on the ID and the OD of the square tube. So those are a lot stronger than just the 90 style bend on you know, some square tubing you get. So, and that's what was factory on these. These had a factory, you know, round ID on the inside of these two. So that's why I went with these instead of just having someone bend them. I was actually going to have Paul bend some, but I couldn't find this tubing. So these were $100 for a set, which, I mean, if you look at it, it's just a couple pieces of aluminum, but having the factory radius is going to make this look just that much more stock. And that's kind of what we're after. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to trim up this factory neck right here. I'm going to dry fit the factory Y, then we'll start piecing this together. All right, so after cutting and fitting and grinding for, I don't know, the last couple hours, the Y is pretty much where it's going to be. I've got just a little bit of some clearance issues for the manifold bolts to the cylinder, but more or less, that's pretty much where that thing's going to live. You can kind of see how the new down tubes fit up in there. They're obviously way too long. They've got to get cut and shortened up this way in order to fit in the lower part of the chassis, but got to get this thing situated first. Radiator's really tight against the Y. Kind of taking a chance on that because hopefully the new radiator's not quite as deep right there, but if it is, I'll have to notch the corner of the tank right here and weld it up, which is not a big deal. I've done that before. But as you can see, sun's starting to go down behind the hill, and I've got some stuff that I got to get to. So Jed will be here tomorrow, I think, and he's going to help me out on this, which is great because I always like it's always fun having a buddy helping you out on stuff. So that being said, we'll catch you guys tomorrow morning. Well, good morning. Another fabulous day here in the DBF garage. So today, we're going to tackle the lowers on this thing. Like I said, Jed's going to be here today, I believe, at some point. He had to go do some projects of his own for a minute, and then I think he's going to idle out later on. But I've got the Y bolted in, and I'm going to start trimming these down to make them fit. Okay, so we have her all clamped up. Got the lowers clamped into place. Got those into place. We got to do just a little cleaning up right here on this mount to bring this rail in just a skosh. Here's the upper motor mounts. Probably gonna have to build a bushing like we did on Jed's KX, which is not a big deal. Just machine a little spacer out there, but it's getting pretty close. So I think we're gonna do some final touch up on this thing and we'll tack it into place. So any of you fabricators out there that weld aluminum, I got a question for you. What stainless steel brushes do you guys buy and use that actually holds up for any amount of time? I've been using these Forneys and they're good for about one project, maybe two, and then they start to fall apart. So I'm curious, what brand do you guys use or have you used that hold up the longest and don't fall apart over time? Leave it down in the comments. All right, well, I've got as much welded on this frame as I can get to, well, I guess as much as I can access to without pulling the motor. So this thing is, again, I mean, it's friggin' bonfire hot. This whole frame is just smoking warm. Yeah, we got her welded in pretty good. Pull the motor out and we'll finish welding places like that. Down in there, down in there, down in there. But for the time being, I'm gonna let this thing cool and rest. And next step is exhaust and radiators. Paul's calling me. Hello?
What's happening?
I'm working on your scooter.
Are you? You're home then?
Oh yeah.
Maybe we'll burn over there. We wondered if you'd help us put some fork seals in Lando.
We can do her. Cool. Yeah. You got oil and seals and bushings?
We got oil and seals, so.
Okay. Yeah.
I just don't have that piece that pushes them down in.
Oh, the driver?
Yep.
Yeah, I got one. Yeah, heck yeah. Come on over.
Okay. We'll be over shortly then.
Sounds good. See ya.
Okay, see you in a bit.
Bye. How about that? Sounds like we're gonna do fork seals on Landon's bike for Paul, so cool. I got kind of a mess here, but we'll clean her up and we'll do fork seals on Landon's 250. Sweet.
Doesn't look quite the same as it did when I dropped it off last.
No, I hope not, because there's a pile of work.
Oh, a pile of work.
Oh,
That's cool, man.
yeah, it, so what I did, that's a factory Y. Raised up about, I don't know, maybe about 58 bar.
Yeah.
Mustang.
And then,
A freaking Mustang?
I said, hey, it's not a Mustang.
A Mustang.
When it first pulled up, I was like, that's embarrassing. Who's at my house?
I'm driving a Ford Mustang. Man.
but yeah, so the Y, raised the Y up, and then these factory rails, dude.
Oh yeah,
Those
that's
things are
so
awesome.
cool.
But
Looks good, man.
yeah, it's turned out really well.
Rust in the jug though. That's awesome. Wonder how it's been in the garage.
I don't know.
Must be condensate crap. And,
I mean, it's not horrible.
yeah, but we want it right.
Well, that's just it. Like, I gotta send Jace's jug off.
Yep.
So I'm gonna box his head up, his jug, this one, and that head.
Yep.
Ship them off. I'm basically gonna have him build this motor like I did mine.
Yeah.
Cause I like the way it runs.
Yeah, I want to run good.
It's, you know, I'll have him put a decompression valve in it. You don't use them a lot.
But when you're tired and
Oh my
on
God.
the side of a mountain and
Oh
you want
my
to kick
God.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. It
Yeah.
looks good, man.
It's getting there.
Good deal.
I'm stoked. There you go. And then just lay, as you're coming out, just lay everything on this rag right here.
Oh, you had it.
Almost had it.
You had it.
It's tricky. So start over, find the end of it. There you go.
Now you're on it.
Okay. Ooh. Get tight on you? Use that there wrench right there.
Get tough. You got it. I got it.
Grab a hold of that with one hand. Grab a hold of that with your left and just pop it like a slide hammer. Just like that.
Make sure you leak oil into here. Yeah, I'll lean it right now.
So we had a little bit of a pitting issue here. So we got Landon all set up here and he's gonna do a little polishing on the O-tubes and then we'll go throw her back together. Need a little light on the subject?
A little. Wouldn't hurt.
Well, I think that's all you get unless you want to hold it with your other third hand. Well, Landon, what do you think so far?
They're not that bad. If you
Pretty
know what you're
simple,
doing.
huh?
If you know what you're doing, they are. They're pretty simple.
Yeah, we'll get him. He about got one done. Now he's just got to do this one. I think me and Paul are going to go get a Coke and he's on his own.
That's right.
Hey, Landon, what are you doing there, bud?
Turn this back apart because that is not our dust seal.
So,
Well, I hope you didn't ruin that. You did.
That's not good.
Yeah.
Why?
You put a screwdriver into the seal.
oh, dang it. So, turns out he grabbed, instead of grabbing the dust seal to go on the outside, he grabbed the other oil seal and I couldn't get it to seat down in there. I was like, what the heck? Yeah, that's why. So we're going to tear it apart and see if we can fix that other seal.
I bet we can put
Yeah,
that
we'll
on it.
put that spring on it. It'll be just
It'll be
fine.
perfect.
Good enough for who it's for.
That's right.
All right, Landon, what have you learned tonight?
A lot of things that I did not know.
What was the key thing that you learned?
Don't put 2 oil seals on one shock.
Don't put 2 oil seals on one fork. That's
They
right.
can learn, really.
Yeah.
It
Well,
is.
he did dang good. Think you can do a set again?
Probably could.
There you go.
Buy a few tools and you got it, right?
That's right. So we didn't film a whole lot on my end of it. I think there's going to be more on Paul's end of it. So you guys want to see more of it, go over to his channel and watch the rest of it. So we're going to call that good, I think.
All right. Thank you, sir.
You betcha.
We're going home.
Cool. All right, we're gonna call her a day in the garage. Paul and Landon just took off from building these forks on his bike. So you guys go over and check that out on his channel. And we're gonna call it good on Paul's bike for today because I've gone as far as I can and I'm waiting on parts. So we'll catch you on the next one. And thanks for watching, guys.